If you do not want to make the same mistakes every beginner makes on their first knife, come with me and I will help you. This is a series where I will show you, from start to finish, how to build a knife the right way. And today we are going to start shaping the blade. At this stage, we begin with profiling the outline. Here I am using a 1070 steel with 4.75 millimeters in thickness. First, I apply layout fluid on the steel to make the drawing easier to see. Then I use the template we made in the previous video, place it on the steel, and trace the entire outline with a scribe. Now we have the blade design transferred to the steel. I start removing the excess material with an angle grinder, always being careful not to go past the reference lines. Then, on the belt grinder, using a well-worn belt, I refine the profile. And this is important. Using an old belt avoids waste, because at this stage the pressure is higher and the belt can tear. Now I bring the profile as close as possible to the line. It does not need to be perfect here. We will do the fine adjustment later with a file. With the profile ready, I move on to flattening the blade. I hold it in place with a magnet and work it on the flat platen until the surface is even. Now comes a very important step, marking the center of the blade. I do this on both the edge and the spine using a height scribe. I mark one side, flip the piece, and mark the other. That way we find the exact center. If you want, I can show you later how to make a simple height scribe for your workshop. I also take this moment to mark the tang. It needs to be slightly narrower than the ricasso. Here, with 4.75 millimeters steel, I will leave the tang at about 3.18 millimeters. I also mark the ricasso, even if it is a rough mark, just to avoid grinding past the limit. Back to the grinder. Now with a new belt, I start grinding the blade near the ricasso. Here, precision is critical. I cannot invade the ricasso area. I work slowly, always checking. This part takes practice. There is no secret. The more time you spend in the workshop, the more control you gain. I start grinding the edge and gradually change the angle, bringing the grind line up toward the spine, always working little by little. Always checking. As I get closer to the spine, I slow down. Because the grind line cannot go past the spine. Here I stop about 3 to 4 millimeters below the spine. The fine adjustment will be done later with a file. Now I repeat the same process on the other side. With that done, I move to the tip of the knife. Here I remove very little material. And this is important. The thinner the blade is before heat treatment, the higher the risk of warping. So I remove only what is necessary to align it, and leave the distal taper to be done after heat treatment. I use a piece of wood to support the blade and avoid burning my hand. And I keep refining the grind from the edge to the spine, keeping everything even. I repeat the same process on the other side. Now I move to the tang. I already have the markings, so I carefully remove the material, always checking. And that is all the grinding before heat treatment. Now we move to file work. First, I apply layout fluid and mark the distance from the end of the ricasso to the tip of the blade, which is 13 centimeters in this project. Using a square, I draw the ricasso line. It must be perfectly at 90 degrees in relation to the spine. This is our main reference for the entire knife. I secure the blade in a filing jig and begin the adjustment. I use the file to flatten the ricasso and prepare the fit for the guard. With this side ready, we move to the transition between the ricasso and the blade. I draw a line with the square and secure it in the filing jig. Now comes a trick that helps a lot. I mark the blade with layout fluid or a marker and place tape on half of the file. This way, I remove material only where needed without scratching the rest of the blade. I do this on both sides until everything is aligned. Now that both sides are adjusted, I refine the height of the ricasso. Here I am making a negative ricasso. It is a technique I have already shown in detail in another video. But let me know in the comments if you think this detail is worth covering again. With that done, I finish the file work. I leave the edge at about 1 millimeter thickness before heat treatment. From here, the next step is normalizing, quenching, and tempering. But this is a more complex process that deserves its own video. If this helped you, leave a comment with your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions or if you think anything was missing, and don't forget to like and share. And in the next one, I will show you the blade grinding after heat treatment.